So I'm Sam Green from Demon Media, and today I'm here to interview Tom Mayhew about his Leicester Comedy Festival. So Tom, how are you today?
I'm alright, yeah, how are you?
That's good, man. I'm fantastic.
I like your hair.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, I was going to say, we've kind of got that long hair vibe going. I mean, it's good, man. It's good.
Well, I thought mine was long, but you're thrashing me.
So I know you had your show on the 4th Eve. How did that show go, by the way?
Yeah, it was good, man. It was really good. Yeah, people seemed to laugh. People seemed to enjoy it. People seemed to have a nice time. And yeah, it's nice to be it's the first time I've toured a show, so it's nice to bring it to places where, like literally this time last year, I was previewing it and it was a bit so it was nice to bring it here when I'm like, hey, it's actually good now.
It's also in your shows, I've noticed you have like an awkward persona on you when you go up. Is that also part of your skits and jokes?
I mean, I guess I'm just quite an awkward human being, so that kind of just works as part of, I was like, I'm never going to get rid of that, so I have to work it into the act, otherwise it would just look rubbish. Like, I naturally never could be the type of guy who's like very bolshy and confident, so I was like, well, I may as well just use this, because otherwise it will just look even.
That's fair. So what inspirations from other comedians do you take? So who would you say who inspires you the most?
There's a lot of people, I suppose. I always liked people like before I did comedy, I was really into Richard Herring. I thought I liked the fact he did shows around big themes and sort of went, okay, I want to write about that, and it's not the easiest topic, but I want to write about it anyway.
Yeah,
I like people who sort of push themselves, who want to do stuff that's a bit more interesting, a bit less safe, a bit more like, okay, like I like the idea of, because you write a show all year round, I like the idea of in January being like, okay, this is going to be hard for me to write.
Yeah.
And it being really hard for you to actually write jokes about it. But then when it comes to August in Edinburgh, you're like, how do I write a joke about that? And you're like, yeah, smashed it, mate,
Speaking of Edinburgh, I know you performed there for BBC One. Would you say that would be the best event you ever performed at, or?
No, I mean, it's really hard to say the best event, because when you've done like hundreds or thousands of gigs, it's really hard to narrow down which one is your favourite one, because it's part of me that thinks that the best event should be the gig I did to 20 people when I met my girlfriend, because I met her and she was one of the 20 people, and it wasn't the best gig, but part of me thinks, oh, I should say that, or part of me thinks it should be the first paid gig or the first time you sold out a venue. So it's really hard to sort of nail one down.
So I know you also have your podcast, the 18%. Mm-hmm. So tell us more about that.
That was started in November 2018, and we've not updated it enough because I ended up just focusing on my stand-up, because I felt like if I can make more of a name for myself as a stand-up, that'll bring more people to the podcast. So we've not updated it in a while, but basically there was a study released that said that like only 18% of people working in the arts are from working class backgrounds. So I was like, that's mental, that's far too low. So I wanted to set up a podcast that was only people from those backgrounds, because otherwise you don't hear them. You could listen to a podcast by, for example, Richard Herring, and listen to 100 episodes, and the reality is maybe 10 of those could actually be from working class backgrounds, so you don't really feel like you hear people who speak from my background. So I wanted to represent that a bit more, because otherwise they just it's much harder to be heard in the arts, because it's very expensive, and there's a lot of private school kids who can get ahead by basically chucking money at the wall.
So whilst you were at the Leicester Comedy Festival, did you watch anyone else's performances?
I haven't this year. I have done a few extra gigs, a few little compilation shows to sort of say, hey, come to my show, it's on this day or that day. And today I did a laser tag with some children.
Oh yeah, okay.
It was a show. It wasn't just me hanging out. That would be weird. But there's a guy called Dan Nicholas, and basically he books comedians. So you have like 4 comedians. Each of you have a group of 10 children, and you play laser tag with them. And you dress up as a thing. So I was an explorer. There was someone dressed up as a giraffe, and it's just a very silly thing to do. And it's kind of that crazy thing where you're like, how is this my job? This is crazy.
Would you say that you enjoy doing it though?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, well, I quite like children, even though I don't want any. Which is that's kind of what I want to talk about in my next show, sort of the idea that I think children, I like them, but I like the fact that you can get rid of them at the end of the day. I think that's how a lot of people do feel about children. I want to kind of...
You'll be fine.
I mean, yeah, you can... I like being an uncle, basically. I think that's cool, but I don't know if I want to be a dad, because
Bit too much responsibility.
It's permanent. It's all the time, you know. Well, I mean, how old are you? You can't have kids.
I'm 19. I've got a niece as well. I've literally just had a niece.
You had her.
No. No.
Congrats.
No.
I read about that in the news. Shout out to your niece if she's watching.
Yeah, shout out Autumn. How you doing?
Autumn?
Yeah, that's the name.
Was she born in the autumn?
Yeah, actually, September.
I mean, otherwise that'd be a massive.
Yeah, literally.
She was born in January. Like, yeah, let's call her Autumn. Yeah.
Just big off. Literally, man. Have you got any other exciting materials coming up that you'd like to talk about right now?
I mean, I've always got stuff I'm working on. I feel like I'm always trying to write new stuff and think of new things. Like, especially as someone who I try to write political stuff. It means at the moment there's always new things to write about and new catastrophes going on every single day, it feels like, at the moment. So there's always new stuff I'm writing about.
Cheeky, like, poke at Brexit or something.
I mean, that's almost old news now,
Yeah.
though. That's almost finally gone. It's crazy.
I know, right? So what upcoming events have you got coming up as well?
Well, I've got just previews for my new show sort of around the country. I'm doing a few little tour dates of my old show, Tom Mayhew, that's coming to Glasgow in March. That's coming to Sheffield in March and Manchester in July. They're kind of the main little things I'm doing. And then I'm just doing previews everywhere at the moment to try and get the show in shape for Leicester. For Edinburgh. I'm in Leicester now.
So I know you do national tours, but would you ever consider going international?
If someone pays me, it's as simple as that. I can't realistically afford to. I've never been abroad, so I can't. It's not something I've ever just done for fun. I've never had the money, and so I kind of feel like I can't just go. I'm going to do a show in Malta next week, because who in Malta has heard of Tom Mayhew? Absolutely no one. It would just be a man and his dog, and just staring at me, going, "What is this?" I would have spent like $2,000 to get to Malta. I would have poured that money down. Why do you want me to do this? But yeah, I think I would. But I guess with those things, you kind of need something to give you a bit more of a international recognition. Like if you're in a movie or a film, and then you can be like, people be like, "Hey, it's that guy from that film we saw," and they'd go and see you off the back of that. But if someone like Jack Whitehall can probably do international tours because he's done work in America, whereas most people in England have just worked in England, so there'd be no point of us going to America because no one would buy a ticket because they don't know who we are.
Would you say that your like skits, I refer to them as skits, are very British, so maybe an international audience might not understand them as well?
I suppose so. Yeah, I think definitely with my last show, because my last show was kind of about when I was on benefits in the UK. So I do feel like if I go to somewhere like, I don't know, Sweden and talk about the DWP and Ian Duncan Smith and Jacob Rees-Mogg and all that stuff, they'll be like, "What the are you talking about, mate?" Like, so I think that stuff wouldn't necessarily work abroad. But there's some other stuff that would. I'd have to kind of tailor my set and make sure I got rid of all the Britishness, all that stuff, and make it just very vanilla and very bland.
International friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that.
Like, do they have Brum in France? I don't know.
I don't even know what that is.
Do you know what Brum is, mate?
No, I don't even know.
Oh, you are a child.
What is it? Please, someone tell me.
Comments below. It's a car and he kind of drives himself and he's got a face. And
Oh, Brum! Okay,
Yeah.
now I understand.
why did you not get it before?
Because I don't even know.
You've not done your research before this interview. I specifically
person.
said you must watch Brum.
Can we redo the interview another day? Are we allowed to do
Yeah,
that?
we'll do it.
We are allowed to do that, right?
We'll do it
come back
tomorrow.
tomorrow and do it on Brum.
Hopefully the interviewer isn't a jackass. I'm joking, you're lovely. Don't edit that so I look horrible. Don't do that. No, I was joking.
Thank you for joining me, though,
That's
today.
alright, mate. Thank you for
thanks,
inviting
man.
me. Yeah.